Anduin! The light shall bring victory.
For Doomhammer.
Yo, what's up guys, Anbraxas. Anbraxas here. Been a while since you guys have seen a video, but so I've been playing a lot of Hearthstone. I've made a pretty sick Shaman deck, so I wanted to show that off today. Maybe, you know, let you guys get in my mind a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and take this first pick because it already gives me something that's going to take me up to 4 mana, and basically my deck is incredibly powerful after 4 mana. There's pretty much no way for... Well, I mean, there are a few ways for people to stop me, but it's going to be pretty hard on them. So we're going to use that mana crystal and throw those two out, because now I'm for sure going to get up to 4 mana before he can really do anything about it, unless he's got like a couple of Shadow Word deaths on him. He's pretty much screwed. And he really didn't have anything on him. So just rotate out the totems. Alright, so that's 3 taunt creatures. And he really has to start doing something now because, ooh, what's this? Battle Cry. Deal 4 damage to himself. Interesting. Anyhow, as you can see, the Azure Drake just came out from my deck. So the Azure Drake's one of the weaker creatures inside my deck, and I think it's usually about that time that people start to realize they're going to be getting steamrolled. Give a minion 2 attack this turn. Let's go ahead and... Do I want to burn my Hex right now? I really don't like that Injured Blade Master. Let's go ahead and burn Hex on him. That'll pretty much force him through the other 2 taunts. Holy shit, he had a second one. Interesting. Got us an Unbound Elemental. You give 3 attack. It won't get me close enough. And let's go ahead and do this, and I'll just sacrifice. Oh yeah. Oh, he still can't attack that. So basically what I'll do is I'll throw down the Unbound Elemental and then go into a Lightning Storm. Because Unbound Elemental gains stacks off of Overcharge, or Overload. And I have a lot of spells that cause Overload in my deck, so... Or could play the Twilight Drake. That'll go up to a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That'll be a 4/6, which would be able to handle one of them. But you know what? Let's go. We'll do this. Now I've got locked out for 2, but since I already have 4 mana down here, it'll go into 5, so I'll be able to overload again and bring out that, what is this? This is a 7/8 taunt. There goes Shadow Word Death. Oh yes, it's our Twilight Drake. Interesting. Alright, I could play my Twilight Drake and let my overloads fall off. I might want to do that considering Ragnaros could be coming out here in the next turn or 2. So let's go ahead and do that. So now it's a 4/6. And, depends on what I want to do.
My shield for Argus.
Okay, so that's automatically going to need to be silenced next turn. Which will probably make him kinda sad. Raven Lord Assassin. But yeah, no, we're gonna go ahead and break out the silence. Bring out the feral spirits. Now what I probably want to do is summon a couple of totems and get a healing totem out. That way I can heal up the Twilight Drake and all my other minions. At this point in the game, he's got a lot to deal with. He has to figure out what he's getting rid of. I mean, like, even though the Feral Spirits cause a number 2 overload, I mean, they're 2/3 taunts. So pretty much whatever they get attacked with is getting hurt. Yeah, particularly if, like, I have, God, what do they call those? Flame Tongue totems, and I throw those down between the 2 wolves, and they become 4/3s. They can be pretty difficult to get rid of, especially if I have anything behind it. And I do have an Alarmo bot in my deck somewhere that I can bring out, so now he's going to be in real trouble. Throw out a little warning.
The elements will destroy you.
So as you can see, once I start rolling up mana, oh, okay. My deck can get pretty devastating. I like this one. Unless he silences, it can't do anything. Like, it legitimately cannot do anything. So, do I want to go into a 2 overload? Yeah, why not? Let's go ahead and lust it up. And end this one. And I mean, I had Ragnaros and a couple of other things even beyond that, so he was pretty much not going to win that one. My deck was just constructed better. I mean, he could have had some more awesome stuff in his deck, but I still had hexes coming up. I still had a lot more lightning abilities, like 4 or 5 more silences coming out of the deck, so it is what it is. But let me go ahead and show you what's inside the Shaman deck, and just that way you get like a pretty clear picture of like what I have going on in here. Alright, so without clicking on anything to get rid of it, I've got Earthshock. It silences, does 1's damage, which is really great against anything with taunts, or anything that like gains HP or attack power off of something. Like mages, they love bringing out stuff that increases their spell power because they have that 6 damage fireball or, you know, whatever. So I'll pretty much always Earthshock that. Forked Lightning, I've only got 1 of these. I'm going to be adding in 2 whenever I have the ingredients to make another one. But basically just deal 2 damage to 2 random enemy minions. And I'm pretty good about keeping the enemy, you know, on their feet, not much on the field. So usually there's only 2 to 3 minions, so I'm able to use the Forked Lightning to pretty much kill exactly what I want to kill. And then we go 2 lightning bolts, which do 3 damage each and only 1 overload. Personally, I kind of think this might be like a slight balancing issue. I think they should probably bump these up to a number 2 overload. Because if I get both of these, like at the start of a match or something like that, right at the card selection, I can pretty much lightning bolt down anything. Like, say they pull something out of their ass and they pull like a 6/6 monster, 2 lightning bolts. It only cost me 2 mana the next turn. There's really not a whole lot of thought behind it when I get lightning bolts. It's pretty much like whatever I want to die, you know, I shock up. I really like the shield bearers. Like, even though they don't have any kind of attack, the fact that they have 4 health, they only cost 1. I can pretty much bring these out as like a block at any point in the match. What I've noticed is like a lot of players, they like to stay on the lower end of things. A lot of their monsters are like 2/2s or you know, like 2/2s, 2/3s, 3/4s, that kind of thing. Usually around the 2 or 3 mana cost, and it's usually not enough to kill a shield bearer off the bat. And you know, for an example, like say I have a shield bearer and I've summoned out like the Healing Tide totem or something like that. Usually, like, particularly if I get these guys out at the beginning of the match and I get a healing totem on the ground, like, instantly, people seem to have, like, a really difficult time getting rid of these guys because they can't do enough damage, you know, versus what healing is incoming to them. Or even when they're just standing around, they tend to be, like, real pains in the butts for them to get by. At least from a Shaman perspective. Now I tried to work these into like my Warrior deck. They just do terrible in my Warrior deck. They pretty much get like 2-shot every single time because there's like no way for me to heal them up. But they're one of my favorite monsters inside of my deck. Then we got the Flame Tongue Totem. Now Flame Tongue Totem, these are pretty cool. Now if you're not a Shaman, the only other thing that you can get that's like the Flame Tongue Totem is, I believe, a Direwolf Alpha, which the Direwolf Alpha is, I think, like a 2-1 or a 2-2. And it has the same effect, but it's only +1 to adjacent minions. Flame Tongue Totem's pretty badass because like this deck's kind of vulnerable for the first like 4 turns of the match. So on turn 2, if I start throwing down you know, my totems or whatever, like my normal like Wrath of Air, Healing Totem and stuff like that, and I have one of these in my deck, I can pretty much drop a totem and then drop this bad boy, and then my totems can attack. So if I have to, I can sacrifice like a Healing Totem like I did in the last match to destroy something else, just to keep, you know, the board cleared up on their side. And we'll talk about like why I like to keep things cleared up on their side, because I do have spells to take care of like people who like to spam like 1/1 attack monsters and like monsters that summon other stuff. I have spells for that. But the Flame Tongue Totem's like kind of like a good deterrent on the other side, especially when they're stacked up against the shield bearers, things like that. Now the Iron Beak Owl, it's just in there for the silence. Like, it's crappy. It's really crappy, but it's like, it's a nice cheap silence just to keep in the deck, particularly like say they summon a legendary or something like that and you just silence it. Particularly like the one legendary that really gets to me is like Sylvanas Windrunner. Whenever that comes out, like after like I've popped Ragnaros or something like that, I'm pretty much looking to silence it, you know, however I possibly can, just because I can't have her sit there and do damage and steal my rag. Because then I have to silence him. So just he's in there as just like a really cheapo silence. He doesn't have any other purpose other than his silence. Now the Feral Spirits, I would love to have 2 of these. I don't think I could fit 2 of these in the deck if I wanted to have a second Fork Lightning. It's kind of a toss-up. Like, these are really good when you couple them with the Flame Tongue Totems. They summon 2/3 Spirit Wolves, and they summon 2 of them. Now, unfortunately, you can't choose where the Spirit Wolves are going to spawn. Like, they're either coming in on the left or they're coming in on the right. So you have to lay down, like, your Flame Tongue Totem or your Direwolf Alpha right in the middle of them to get them up to, like a 4/3 or a 2 or a 3/3. But for only costing a 2 overload, and usually by the time you're ready to play these guys, like I've hardly ever played them at the very start of a match. They're usually like a late game addition for me. But even if I have to play them at the start of the match, even with the 2 overload, usually the very next turn I can lay down like Flame Tongue or something like that between them and make them a real force to be reckoned with. Like 3 health isn't a whole lot, but when there's 2 of them to take care of, and they've had their attack buffed in some meaningful way, they could be a real pain. Alright, and then we've got, just standard 2 hexes. Pretty much, if you're playing a Shaman, you have to have your 2 hexes. You just do. Just because there's, like, always oh crap moments. Like, with this deck, I could honestly probably drop it down to 1 hex, but the amount of times I've needed it, like, for an example, that 6 mana Centaur that's like a 5/6 taunt. Or like a 6/5 taunt. I love hexing those just because, like, they're still kind of they're kind of a pain in the butt to get rid of, just because I'm going to be sacrificing one of my more powerful monsters to get rid of it, and I kind of like to keep my more powerful monsters on my side of the field. Lava Burst is kind of a given. It's 5 damage for a 2 overload versus Lightning Bolt, which was 3 for 1. Which is why I said Lightning Bolt might need its overloads turned up just a smidge. I'll save Lava Burst for like any time we're above 5 mana. I've got I try to just hold on to my Lava Burst because, like, even if they summon like a Ragnaros and all I've got is the stupid Iron Beak out, or yeah, Iron Beak Owl or whatever, and you throw out Lava Burst and hit it with a weak creature and it's dead. This is pretty much a legendary killer. That's why I put it in my deck. It's just like an emergency, just burst the damage, knock somebody down. This I would love to have two of. I've only got one, and I've had situations where I have lost to like spam decks, which is just decks that spam a lot of 1/1 or 2/2 monsters. Lightning Storm just basically clears all that up, especially if I've been like tapping on my totems for a little bit and I have like Shield Bearers or something like that. If I have a Wrath of Air totem that increases my spell damage, suddenly you're doing 3 to 4 damage across all enemy minions, and now you're starting to do like an AOE, take out monsters that are 4 mana and below. So that's always good to have. More likely, whenever I have the resources to craft one of these, I'm definitely going to put a second one in the deck, and I'll probably at that point take out I would have to say I probably will take out Forked Lightning at that point, or one of the lightning bolts. 2 Bloodlust, honestly, like with the way this deck's constructed, I could really get away with only having one. Sorry, that was my phone. But one of the reasons that I have 2 in here is sometimes you just get a bad match where you're getting crappy pulls. You know, for an example, like say I pulled a bunch of strong stuff at the beginning, and for whatever reason I just have to throw out weak monsters like the Iron Beak Owl, crap like that. Oh, why are we all the way down here? Well, anyhow, let's just finish up talking about Bloodlust. This is really good if I've tapped a bunch of totems like Healing and Wrath of Air and stuff like that. Because they're 0 attack totems and they only have 1 or 2 health, enemies almost always ignore those unless they feel they're a threat. So like if I have a Wrath of Air totem, which increases my spell damage, yeah, I use a spell, they'll try to destroy it probably the next turn. If I haven't used any spells coming off the Shaman himself, they almost always ignore it. So I can usually have like you know, for an example, like what do they call them? Like a magma totem, stuff like that. The little dinky totems sit on the ground. They're usually ignored. In an emergency or a pinch, I can pop Bloodlust and give them +3 attack. Suddenly, you know, these dinky little totems that didn't mean anything are like having a 3 mana monster on the field, and I've got 4 of them. You know what I'm saying? So that's pretty good. Alarmobot saved my butt a few times. Like this is usually like if I've got a couple of taunts on the field, like my ferals or something like that. I really love playing them after I play my feral spirits, because you know, now I have 3 monsters with taunt for them to deal with. And they know the Alarmobot's like a bad deal, and they really want to destroy that, but they really have to make that choice. Do they want to use a spell or something on it? He's usually a spell catcher, but, you know, assuming that it just goes through. Usually he's summoning something, like if I throw him down in between like 2 taunt monsters at like turn 3, he's usually summoning like a 7 or an 8 mana monster, so it could really end the match in a hurry. Now, Unbound Elemental, something I added in like pretty darn recently. I really like the Unbound Elemental. Anytime I use an overload, he'll gain 1/1. So as you saw in the last match, he went to like a 3/6 because I used 2 overloads. And you've seen how many different things already use overload. Well, I've got a few other monsters in here. One other monster in here that really cranks up my overloads. And as I was saying before, the couple of cards I wanted to replace would add even more overload into my deck. So if I brought this guy out between a couple of taunts, he could easily become like a, I don't know, like a 6/8, 7/8, somewhere around there, depending on like how many spells are cranked out in a row. You know, the good thing about him is like when I go into overload, my mana is going to be locked up the next turn, but if I just cranked him up to like a 6/8, like the enemy pretty much has to take care of him. They aren't going to be able to attack my hero, you know, unless I'm at like 2 health, and that's just like the thing to do. there isn't going to be like a whole hell of a lot for them to do. They'll have to take care of him. So he's kind of like, he's almost like the counter to an overload in a way. Like he becomes more of a threat even though I'm in a weaker position. So they don't really have a choice. They have to take him out. We already talked about Bloodlust. The Azure Drake, I could pretty much replace with anything else. I just like it because, like, once in a while I need an emergency spell draw. It's a 4/4. You know, honestly, I'm probably going to replace it with something. I just don't know what yet. You know, this is going to sound kind of, like, stupid, but I actually threw him in there because I had the Twilight Drake. I don't know why we keep skipping down. Dark Iron Dwarf, it's a 4/4, giving a minion +2 attack this turn. Really good for like an unexpected like boosted totem or something like that. Then I got the Mogushan Warden. Yeah, he's a 4 mana monster, and he's a 1 attack, but he's got 7 health. And like I was saying before, since I have 2 Flame Tongue totems, if those bad boys are out in the field, and they're like sitting next to each other, you throw those down in the middle of them, suddenly he's what is it, a 4/7? Yeah, 4/7 taunt. Usually he'll only come out, you know, unless it's like actually turn 4, usually he'll only come out in between other boosts. He can be pretty darn dangerous. And we got Silver Moon Guardian. He's just kind of like, just is what he is. Divine Shield. He's kind of there for, you know, I don't want to say emergencies, but more of those situations where it's like they summon something pretty powerful early. This guy can get in 2 hits. I've been thinking about throwing in Wind Fury just because he has Divine Shield. If I could throw in a Wind Fury on him, that'd make him pretty good. That'd make him pretty much able to kill anything upwards towards the legendary side of things when you mix him in with the Flame Tongues, stuff like that. Spellbreaker, just another silence for the deck. So if you've been like keeping track of what I've been talking about, Spellbreaker's now the 5th silence in the deck. Not to mention like 6 different taunts. So you're starting to get kind of the picture of like what happens when you're playing against this deck. Like, I want to do a few more matches, but I'm not going to do it today. I just want you to see what's going on. Spellbreaker's like, it is what it is. It's good for just like blocking something like an Amani Berserker or something like that, where they have like an enrage bonus. That'll Spellbreaker them. The Twilight Drake is one of my favorite cards. Even though it's a 4/1, it gains 1 health for each card in your hand. I've almost always got 6+ cards in my hand. I don't know how that is. Usually if I'm down to where I only have 1 or 2 cards in my hand, like I'm in trouble. Like I've been like struggling just to get by for a little bit. This guy's like really, really great to play right after like playing like the Mushan Warden or the Shield Bearer. Somebody who has taunt on them. You know, he doesn't look like much, but suddenly, you know, if he came out and he was a 4/2, he wouldn't be like that big of a threat. He comes out and he's a 4/6 or a 4/8, yeah, pretty much gonna be absorbing a spell, a polymorph, something like that. They're going to get rid of him somehow, and if they don't, he's just gonna mow down a couple of cards. If I have a healing stream totem or something like that, he's probably gonna mow down 3. Or he's going to be attacking their hero a couple of times. Just a good card to have in the deck. Now, this is one of my favorites. The Earth Elemental. It's a 7/8 taunt with a 3 overload. So if you think back a few seconds when I was thinking about the Unbound Elemental, that makes the Unbound Elemental a, what was that, 2, 3, 4, 5? A 5/8? Whenever I play those two in conjunction with each other, it's 4 and 5 mana. So if I'm upwards around the 10 mana mark, which usually by the time I see both of these guys together, that's where I'm sitting at. I probably also got a couple of spells in my hand that only cost 1 mana each. Suddenly I can have a 7/8 taunt and an 8/11 elemental sitting right there, be completely out of mana, but they're going to have a really, really tough time dealing with it. And then Fire Elementals, I'm probably going to take one of these back out. I added in one just because I don't know, I just wanted another one because they have that battle cry, deal 3 damage on summon. 6/5, they're really not bad. If I take out one of the shield bearers and I put in like the 2 mana, what do you call it? Gives adjacent taunt. You could turn these guys into pretty beefy tanks out of nowhere. I don't have anything in my deck for that right now. I just kind of like keeping these guys around for just the fun of saying the elements will destroy you. Pretty much by the time they see these guys coming out, they're toast. The Frost Elemental, same thing. Freeze character on summon, it's a 5/5. 6 mana. It's not as good as the Fire Elementals, but I kind of wanted to keep up the Elemental thing playing a Shaman, so that's why he's in here. He's pretty good. He usually comes out behind a taunt, so... the Raven Lord, or yeah, Ravenholt Assassin. This guy I've been debating on taking out. I haven't really made that decision yet. Like, he's really good if I'm on my toes. Being able to call out like a 7/5 stealth is really useful. Like against other legendaries and stuff like that. I really like having him around. And of course, the piece delivers his taunts. Ragnaros the Fire Lord. When he comes out, it's usually game over. He's usually sitting behind 2 to 3 taunts. Even if he's on his own, usually the deck's pretty clear. When he comes out, there's almost nothing they can do. When he comes out and they decide they need to get something powerful out, if it's the only card on the field, like for an example, I throw down Ragnaros and they throw down their Ravenholt Assassin, right? If I've already got Ragnaros out and they throw him down, their monster's going to be on the sleeping cooldown from when they're first summoned. So there's a 50-50 chance of Ragnaros either hitting their hero freight damage or hitting that monster freight damage and killing it instantly. Like, you never ever want to get caught on the back end of Ragnaros. But that's basically going to cover the deck. Let me know what you guys think. If you ever want to battle this deck, feel free to add me on, whatever it is, Hearthstone. I don't know how you add people in here. My name's Anbraxas on here. I'm pound 1937, I suppose. Yeah, I don't really know how you add people, but yeah. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you later.